Hi again. Here we are on section 4.1 again for rounding, and there will be just two videos for this section. So rounding becomes a very important thing in business math. I end up taking off points in lots of different places because of students not paying attention to the rounding or not reading in the directions where to round to. So always be paying attention and reading to see where you're supposed to round to. You can see that I put this decimal place value chart here, and that might be something you need to refer back to, but we're going to be rounding mostly to the right of the decimal, and so we're going to be looking at the tenths place first. Right, here's the tenths place, and then the hundredths, thousandths. The ones place is another thing that we will be talking about, and we work with money a whole bunch in this class, and so we're going to round to the hundredths place, which is to the nearest penny basically on many things that we do. So these two we're going to round to the tenths place, and the rule for rounding is if the number to the right of where I'm rounding to, so notice I'm rounding to the tenths, and the 4 that I underlined is in the tenths position. The 7 tells me I need to add 1 to that 4, and then all of this to the right we just drop, right? That's all going to be gone, and I don't want to really cross it out completely. So this will be 468.5 when rounded. Now, if that number where I drew the arrow, that number is 5 or more, we add 1 to the digit we're rounding to, and if it's below 5, then we just drop everything and that digit stays the same. And so notice these numbers do not go in my answer at all, we just drop them. Now on the next one, the tenths place is here. This number tells me what to do to that 3, right? The 3's in the tenths place. And since it's a 4, I just drop this, right? All of this is gone. And so this will be 1246.3. And whether you put the, I'm going to scoot it over so I can put the comma. Whether you put the comma or not is not such a big deal. Sometimes it's handy to just help you read that number. All right, so both those were rounded to the tenths place. These are also going to be rounded to the tenths place, and then it might get a little trickier sometimes here. So on this number, I underline the 0 because that's my tenths place. The number to the right of where I'm rounding, which is the tenths, is a 7. So that tells me that I have to add 1. So this is going to be 8.1. When I add 1 to 0, it's a 1. And then notice we just drop those numbers, right? Nothing there. On the next one, the tenths place is a 9, and the number next to that is a 7. I think I need to do something besides 7 on here. So the 7 tells me to add 1 to the 9, but if I add 1 to 9, it's 10, which means I actually have to add 1 to the 25. So this will be 26.0. If you think about this, 25.97, that's very, very close to 26. So hopefully that makes sense. And the 0 has to be there because we were rounding to the tenths place, and the 0 indicates that I rounded to the tenths, right? So that's going to be an important part of that. Okay, next, we're rounding these to the hundredths place, and I talked about that earlier, like it's money, right? Same as the nearest penny. So if we're rounding to the hundredths place, that is the second place after the decimal. This number tells me what to do to that 7 that I underlined. So this will be 468.47. These two numbers I drop. Right? The 3 told me what to do, but I don't need that in my answer. On the next one, I'm at the hundredths place again, and this is a 9. So the 9 says add 1 to that 4, right? Because 9 is above the 5 or more. So this will be 1246.35. And then notice I do not put the 9 or the 2 in my answer. And I also don't put zeros. Zeros are not necessary there. We have to show that we rounded to the hundredths place. All right, the next one is the next two are to the hundredths place also. And so once again to the nearest penny. Notice these are the same numbers that I had on here earlier, but we rounded those to the tenths place. So my hundredths place is there. I'm going to point my arrow at the 2 because that 2 is very important. It tells me what to do with the 7. And in this case, the 7 will stay, so it's 8.07. These two numbers are just dropped, and now it's rounded. And then the next one, we're rounding to the hundredths place again. I have a 5 there. The 5 means, right, 5 or more, I add 1. So this will be, whoops, I zoomed it. This will be 25.98. And then once again, we drop these numbers, right? We added to this 7 because of the 5, and then we drop it. All right, so then these are to the ones place. So the ones place is that number to the left of the decimal place, right? This would be the ones, and that was on our earlier chart. So now I'm going to look at the number to the right of the decimal place. That's where I'm going to put my arrow. That number tells me what to do with this 8, and in this case I would just write it 468. No decimal required. We're rounding this to a whole number, to a ones place, to the units place. You'll see that in different places stated in different ways. So on the next one, once again, I'm looking at the ones place. I have to consider the number to the right of that digit, right? The 6 is the one that is in the ones place. The 3 tells me what I should do with this. So this will just be 1246. Same thing here on the ones. So if I'm rounding to the ones and I have a 0 to the right, that will just be an 8. I round to the ones on this. I have a 9 to the right, so I am going to add 1. Now remember earlier we had 26.0, but on this we will simply have 26, and we will not have a 0 in this case. And you guys, that is the end of the video. And so I will be making videos for every lesson, every section in every lesson. So you're going to be hearing a lot from me. I may mess things up sometimes or have to correct myself or put my dogs outside because they're barking. But anyway, if you ever have any questions about something, you can always let me know.